bird body in here. And on the back side, I've got another, now the bird's other arm. This part I'm seeing really foreshortened. And this part down here is not foreshortened. So on this M, I can have foreshortened, not foreshortened, foreshortened, not foreshortened.
So in terms of doing the guiding, the 1, 2, 3 posture, blah blah blah, are you now you're going to draw the two parts of the wing foreshortened and first, like you're going to do those rectangles differently? You can't have like one big rectangle representing the two parts of the wing anymore.
Yeah, that's right. So on this bent wing bird, that little frame, I'm going to have to bend that plane of the wing. Absolutely. And I think like there's a lot that's kind of going on in my head now. I'm trying to keep all this stuff straight. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a clear way to kind of be able to spin birds around in three-dimensional space and think about how they connect in foreshortened? And well, you can. And what we're going to do is, in just a moment, we're all going to make a little raptor model. All right? If you didn't bring scissors, the good people here at Edgewood have scissors for us. And Pax, can you help me pass out scissors?
Sure, yeah.
Thanks. So Pax is going to pass out scissors. I'm going to pass out these to folks who don't have them.
You have something like that.
Thank you. Do you want one?
No, thank you. I'm okay.
By the handle patches. Make sure you have somebody to handle the scissors, okay? Okay, let's have safety here.
Spray. That's the last one. Really bad.
So for friends at home, for friends at home, I'm going to post on the website a sheet where you can download this little template. And so if you go to johnmuirlaws.com and hunt around a little bit, you'll be able to find where you can download this sheet. Yes, so you don't have to cut out between all those little wingtips. You can just sort of slide around and kind of connect wingtip to wingtip to wingtip to wingtip. Those little feather tips.
Of course, you fold it first so you can cut both sides at the same time, right?
If you're a very accurate folder, but sometimes when I do that, I'm just off a little bit and I end up amputating part of the bird on the other side. When you get done, what I would like you to do is to, can I borrow yours for a second? Sure. We're going to fold it into a little flight shape very much like this. All right? So two wings out and the tail flipped out. There's a little dotted line you can see on where to fold the tail. And, great. If you get done before everybody else, I'm going to suggest that you make a quick sketch of this bird. You while you're waiting for everybody else to catch up to you. See if you can block that bird in.
Did you want paper scissors?
No, it took.
See if you can hold the wings of your model at such an angle that you can make your bird do this. This little paper model is very useful to be able to spin in your hands and get a 3D sense of how these different foreshortening angles are made. Yes, Max?
Did you draw this? Because it was kind of weird to draw a bird. If you drew it, I was wondering how hard it was to draw, like a bird with kind of two heads and kind of like
Yep.
that.
What I did is I drew half the bird and copied it and flipped it over.
Oh, wow. Cool. Yeah, that's why it looks so small.
Can you get your paper model to do this?
Oh, yeah.
Can you get your paper model to do that? For that, what are you going to have to do?
Fold it.
We're going to have to put a little bit of a kink in the wing. So the wing is going to have to be able to have a little bit of bend to it. So halfway through that wing, so you can bend it down. And see if you can get that part foreshortening towards you. Right. With a flat wing, it won't work. A little bit of a bend in the wing. Fold in the wing. See if you can get that to work. Not too much of a bend.
Hold this at an angle.
Yeah. Were people able to get it to do this?
Wait.
So, really foreshortened on the top there. This bird can also rock its wrists more than we can, so with that constraint. What about this? Can you get your paper model to do that?
Yeah.
Bend its head around.
Yeah. So what I like to do with this paper model is, can I borrow yours for a second? Is I'll take this and hold it at an angle. I'll first take a look at a photograph, and then I will sort of see if I can make my paper model do roughly what's going on in the photograph, bearing in mind that the real birds can do all of this sort of twisting the paper model. And then I'll use my paper model to make a little sketch of what I'm seeing with that bird. So this is going to allow you to start to really understand and connect what's going on with the bird three-dimensionally in the air with what you're seeing in these weird foreshortening angles. So if foreshortening on birds is giving you grief and trouble, this bird is there to help you out. It can also help us understand another very strange phenomenon that we see. Let's take a look at this bird's, we've seen this bird before. Let's take a look at its wing here. We know that this one on the bottom here, it's tilted away from us, so we're seeing it at a foreshortened angle. But you would expect what would happen is that the shape of that bottom wing, here I've taken this top wing and just copied it and turned it upside down. If I take this wing and I shrink it to the same size as that wing there, this is what I get. What's the big difference?
That's
Very short feathers, sort of primary feathers.
Yeah. It looks like somebody has trimmed this one's nails down here. Right?
Oh yes, in short, yeah.
He's got these little stubs down here instead of this. Isn't that strange? Why? What's going on there? Yeah?
Because he's flipping them up.
Tilted it up, yeah.
He's tilting them up. Take your bird wing and tip the feathers up like this. Slight little roll, those wingtips, and then tilt it away from you. And look at the shape of that back wing. What do you see?
Shorter than that.
It looked like somebody came along with and cut off the tip of that wing. Let's take a look at this in a diagrammatic way. Here's a little bent piece of metal, right? It's got a flat side with two little flaps up. And what I'm doing here in this diagram, I'm spinning this piece of metal. Right? So if it starts like this, I spin it a little bit here towards it's straight on towards me. I can see the full face of the top part. But this bottom flange here is now pointing straight at me. And I don't see it in the silhouette. I don't see any evidence of that because it's pointing straight at me. Or if its back is to me. So that means if a bird with its wingtip flipped up is soaring along, what's going to happen is this little wing that is flipped up, those wingtips are now foreshortened towards me, and it looks like somebody came along with scissors and snipped those off. In this case, are we seeing it on the top wing or the bottom wing?
Bottom.
What about here?
The bottom.
What about here?
Wait.
What about here?
Various.
Is it very?
Chopped, absolutely chopped up. That's amazing.
So here, I see the full, here these things are stunted. Here it looks, I mean, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right?
it's the lower wing.
It's always the lower wing.
Oh.
You're always going to see, it doesn't matter whether I'm looking at the belly or the back. It's not what is the wing that's the closest or furthest away. It's which one is the lower one. So here, this wing is closer to me. This wing is further away. But this one is still the lower one. This is still the lower one. So the reason for that is, unless the bird is flying upside down, if I'm doing this with my wingtips, right, and I'm soaring around, no matter what I do here, you're seeing that top hand hold my fingers. And here, my lower hand is pointing away from you. You don't see my fingers. Here, when they're pointed towards you, they're foreshortened into you. So this bottom one is always foreshortened. The top one isn't. Pretty cool? So this is really going to distort the shape of those bottom wings. The best way to kind of wrap your head around exploring drawing birds in flight is to take the notes that you've just taken, when you get home, review them again, and re-annotate them. It means put in some big headings. If you drew something that you didn't write about, kind of put in some annotated notes in there. If you wrote about something that you didn't draw, make a drawing to kind of place that. Go online, pull up some pictures of raptors flying around, and use those to help kind of flesh out your notes. Circle things, underline things, put some little bullet points in, so that the major points that you're kind of exploring here are going to pop out of your notes a little bit better. Then, what you want to do is to go online and find some still photographs of raptors in flight. Make a few quick sketches, and then choose one that you really, really like and make a more detailed sketch of it. But more valuable than that is making a lot of little fast sketches from a lot of drawings.
Seeing birds
Seeingbirds.com is an awesome website. I love that. Ashoka Khosla has a wonderful website with lots of great bird pictures there. Here's a bird's both wingtips up, both wingtips down. All right. So both the down ones are clipped, both the up ones are not.
Wait, the down one on the
So
right
remember-
side is clipped?
Yeah.
I can see the one in front is clipped.
This one here, these should be, you would be seeing fingers of feathers sticking out like that. Like that. Or
That's
that.
not just the,
So that's because those feathered wingtips are pointing out away from you so that you can't see the fingers. Right? And here on this falcon, this far wing, right? Why is it coming to a sharp point like that? It's because that wingtip is flipped back. So it's rounding that in. So it looks like somebody came along with scissors. This would be a sharp tip coming out here. Somebody looks like somebody came with scissors and snipped that off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bird up here, and it's going to be here for 1 minute and 1 minute only. And so loosen up your shoulders, and we're going to make a 1 minute sketch of this bird. We're going to do that for 2 different birds. What I would like you to do when you get home is do at least 5 more. All right? So here is bird number 1, 1 minute, and the bird flies away. It's 30 seconds. If you haven't gotten to the part of carving in those triangles next to the tail, put those in. You'll find that's a really powerful way of attaching the tail to the bodies. Look at those negative space in those triangles next to the body. See how that works for you, just to experiment with it. If you go ahead and draw the tail in without looking at those triangles, it's easy to get a tail that's too small and not broad enough. And we'll do this one here. And here's bird number 2. Bird number 2 is going to be here for 1 minute. Fly away in about 15 seconds. If you haven't carved in the negative space around its head, try that. Look at how looking at that as a shape. There's really different shapes of the air on either side of its head. Block that shape in. And the last big question is, and what if they move? All right? Here's the thing. You're going to be out there, you're going to start to draw, and the bird will be coming around, and you get your few lines down, and the bird's going to be coming like that. And if you wait for it to come back to the position which you had started earlier, somehow they can tell, and they never will. All right? The other thing that's going to happen is as you're starting to sketch, your frustration threshold is going to get hit really, really fast because the bird is constantly going to be in motion. And what happens is you start to put to commit to drawing number one, your brain gets invested in that and the idea of finishing that drawing. And so what's going to happen is, as the bird moves, you're going to feel like, oh, darn it, just, would you hold still? And we spend all this time kind of with this inner angst of like, oh, would you just, you get a few lines down and like, oh, you're doing something. The secret with this, in the moment I'm going to put up a video, it's just a hawk and it's circling around. All right? The secret with this is when you're looking at the hawk, is to give up the idea of finishing any of these drawings. You're going to see something, you're going to begin to get stuff down on your piece of paper. It's going to move. Just look up, oh, what's it doing now? I'm going to start to put that down. You're going to be able to, your visuospatial sketch pad is going to momentarily have one moment kind of burned onto it. You're going to try to get what information you have down onto your piece of paper. So, and when you look up, it's going to be a different story. Just go to the next thing. Go to the next thing. If, as you're looking at it, it comes back to a position that you've already seen, jump back to that drawing that you'd already started and continue working on it. I recommend making these sketches. It'll be a small little speck of a bird sort of spinning around, going through lots of poses. Make them sort of smaller drawings, about yay big. If you make them really big, there's so much room that you have to cover with your pencil strokes that that can be very, very difficult and frustrating. But the most powerful part of this is to recognize in yourself as we're doing this, and you'll feel it just with this video, you will recognize when you are clinging to and trying to keep this one little moment which you had started to draw. The more that you are able just to let that go and move on to the next moment, the more you can internally make that transition between I was drawing this and now I'm drawing this. Right? Be aware of how it feels for you and flow with that. Just flow with it. Feel like, oh, now I'm going to start drawing this other thing. And now I'm going to start. The more that I cling to and grasp, it says time to pick up your baby. More that I cling to and grasp at one view, the more difficult it is going to be for me to be able to jump to the next. I'm going to start with just a little demonstration to kind of give you a sense of how it looks when I'm doing it. Because this is very different than portraiture, where the bird will be like, this will be a 10-minute pose. You know. You're going to see me bouncing around from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing. Right? And again, the most powerful thing is just to flow with it and let the idea of finishing any of these drawings go. You are going to find that it will come back to poses that you've seen before. Right? And when it does, you can work those out a little bit more. But you don't know which one of those it's going to be. So if you're waiting for it to come back to that pose, for some reason they never will. All right? So for this demonstration, I am going to be, my little bird is just going to be swiveling around here. Sometimes it's out of focus, and sometimes your binoculars are out of focus too. But at least here we don't have to, also have our binoculars on, right? So this bird is going to be just kind of going around, and it's doing its own thing. And I'm going to try to capture some of those moments. To do this demonstration, could I borrow somebody's sketchbook? Okay. All right, so I'm going to do, can I borrow your pencil? Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a series of little sketches here. And you guys are in a great place because I'm going to kneel right between you. And you guys might want to come up and take a look. And so that you can see what's going on. All right. So I'll often sort of talk out loud as I'm doing this. All right, there's a big T, slopey on the top and then rounded on the bottom. I was looking at its head, I saw it slopey on the top, rounded on the bottom. I got a little moment, my brain picked up a little negative shape of what its head was doing for a moment. That's just a snatch, a piece of a drawing And now I'm going to keep looking. All right, so I'm making a gesture in the air with the angle that I saw of the wing and body. And so here, sometimes when I'm doing really kind of fast sketching like this, I won't even use my non-photo blue pencil because then I don't have to switch between tools. There's that slope there. And what I saw that time was there was off the back side of the wing, there was narrow angle, there was big angle right over here. So that was that, and it just did kind of a little wing flap. So the head really drops down as a big thing underneath here. Like that. There's that angle again, and I'm seeing kind of a ball of tail on this side here, and head wingtip up. So now I start to kind of, in some places, kind of get more. And this point, I can go in and, based on sort of what my memory has taken in and what I have learned from my other sketches, I can get there's birdie number one starting. I'm now getting enough stuff on there that I can begin to, I just looked up and I saw this kind of cool angle here. I can then, you know, so I'm beginning to fill in places where I'm seeing, oh, there was a different thing there. There was sort of a little bit of a fan here, but it was very skinny. There's a big block of the body that was coming down there. So I'm not narrating this just for your benefit. I'm doing this because as I'm looking at it, this is coming into my memory in two ways. Primarily it's coming into my visuospatial sketchpad. That's a place where my brain holds things that I'm seeing. There's a different way that my brain can kind of get things, sort of have stuff to sort of play with. And that's in my short-term memory, and that's called my phonological loop. And the decay rate in that is slower than in my visuospatial sketchpad. So that means that if I'm saying things out loud, then as I'm observing things, I've got another technique whereby I can start to record stuff in my brain. You ever done that trick where you're at a party and you walk up to somebody you don't know, you say, "How do you do? My name's Jack." What's your name?
Pax.
Oh, hi, Pax. It's nice to meet you, Pax. Right? Where you say their name and then you repeat their name.
Times, yeah.
Right? And then, so, Pax, how you been? Right? And then the more I say that, the more I'm going to remember that her name is Pax. Because what I'm then employing my little phonological loop. So often, as I'm looking at these things, say the little observations that I'm making out loud. So you see how this is, you know, I'm first piecing things together, then when I get an observation that reinforces part of that, I'll get that again and again and again and again. All right? So for friends at home, this is what we're doing.
I got it pretty well. Yeah.
Thank you for letting me borrow that. Do you want to try this? Right. Now, here, the major reason we're going to try this is because doing this, I want you to feel that experience of when your brain locks onto something and it's going to insist that you come back to that for you to draw the next line. All right? And just sort of, when that happens, just recognize, oh, okay, there's grasping, there's clinging to this one moment, and just let it go and flow with the next one. Just recognize that in yourself, and breathe, and just keep going. And the more that you can make that transition gentle for yourself, the more you'll be able to sit there and just be mindful. Right?
So, we're looking for a pose that somehow appeals to us, is that right? To begin sketching it and then move on to another one?
That either appeals to you, or even if it doesn't appeal to you, it's what the bird is doing.
And it just catches your attention.
Did you catch? Yes, I see something. I'm going to try to get that little moment onto my page. One other trick that you can do, if you're just kind of, there's just motion and motion and motion, and there are no discrete moments, one way of holding a discrete moment is to close your eyes, clean your sketch pad, open it for a sec, and close, like the shutter of a camera. Right? Try that just with this bird here. It's going around, and you're like, what am I seeing? And then you open and close. And you see that little moment that is then burned onto your eyes?
That's so much better.
Right? There's that little, you look, all right, and maybe it wasn't, the last time that I just did it, I saw this kind of a big ball of a wing with some, it was, there's something, and then there's a bird that was sticking down here, all right? And then I do it again, I go, all right, and I had a wing that was curving and up, and there was then some body here, and I don't remember what the rest of it was doing. And then I had this, and, all right, so let's give this a try.
Well, thank you for saying that, because that's what I was going to ask you. This one moment wipes out the next. So
yeah, so you can just capture them with using your eyes like the shutter of a camera. And just sort of notice that, and be aware of the decay rate of what is in your memory, right? And the more you observe these things, the longer things will stick there. But for me, I feel really good if an image can stay with me for about 3 seconds. All right? And that's a long time to have some access to something. And then it goes, and then I look up and get the next thing. All right? I've got 3 seconds to sort of capture part of a moment. See what I can do. Yeah, so that then leads to a tube, a hole going back into the head of the bird. So yeah, you could, if you're a little ant, you could walk down into there and all the way into the respiratory tract of the bird.
Let's hope no ants ever think of that idea.
Ruin some birds. So if what you find is that you are primarily just experiencing the frustration part, right? Just be aware of that, and know that this is something. This is an approach that you can cultivate, and the more that you work at it, the more easily that can happen. And this, I was looking at a real raptor flying around today. You've got much better resolution in real life than what we have right there on screen.
This guy is just going. I haven't seen him flap once for the whole thing. It's like, I mean, you see him move. You see him flap a little bit, but that's only to get higher. I haven't seen him exactly.
Yeah. So that's what the advantage of being on a thermal.
Yeah.
So go up. All right. So this concludes our workshop on sketching birds. Here's what I recommend. I recommend go home, play with your notes, explore both videos of raptors in flight, which you can find on YouTube, explore from photographs, And just be gentle with yourself. There's some anatomy to get under our belt. Playing with the little model will help tremendously. But you're trying to do something that is, you've got this elaborate, complex, foreshortened thing, and it's now moving around every second, taking on a different pose. And you're trying to record some of those moments in your sketchbook. Cut yourself a lot of slack. Right? If you find that you can record some moment, or that, and sort of document some aspect of what you see, do 50 little sketches. If one of them kind of gives you, yeah, that sort of feels like that moment that I saw, you're successful. If doing this helps you remember what you see, you're successful. Or if doing this helps you notice something that otherwise you would not have seen, these sketches are a success. The secret to getting better at it is just more graphite on the paper. The more you play with this between now and our field trip, you're going to get up there on top of Hawk Hill, these things will be flying past you, and you'll be flying through those pages. So have fun with it. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.